Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS Monday Night Football. We got Houston, Dallas. Houston's on the road in this one, having an excellent week, man. College football, my bets went 12-3 this week. Top bets swept 3-0. NFL, my top bets went 2-1. The Chargers-Bengals game is still going, but I have over 47.5, and it's at 47 now. So this is looking pretty good. I had Chargers team total over, which hit. Bengals team total over 23.5. I mean, having a very, very good week. Hopefully that momentum continues into Monday night here. Texans, Cowboys in Dallas. Let's do it.
Welcome to the SWAS. The SWAS. SWAS. Hey, get the SWAS.
All right, like I said, Houston's on the road in Dallas for this one. The Cowboys are catching pretty much mostly 7 now. There were 7.5s for most of the week. Looks like the 7.5s got bought up because I'm seeing mostly 7s across the board. Total sitting at 41, pretty much 41 across the board. There are a couple 41.5s if you look. So let's get into this one. We'll start with the pie charts. Action seems to be coming in on the Houston side, according to this data. 70% of the tickets, over 75% of the money. As I always say, take this data with a grain of salt. So let's get into this matchup, and we'll start with the Texans offense against the Dallas defense. Not a lot of green on these graphics here. Houston offensively 20th in yards per play, 30th in success rate. The rushing numbers look terrible. Passing numbers surprisingly mediocre, even slightly below average. Not exactly what we were expecting from CJ Stroud and the Houston passing attack this season. The good news is they're matched up against the Cowboys defense, and they can't seem to do anything right. 28th in yards per play, 20th in success rate. Numbers against the run are pretty terrible. Numbers against the pass also pretty terrible. Although they are 10th in success rate per dropback, there is a green number on this graphic. But yeah, this is a bad offense against a bad defense. Now, obviously, the lead story with this Houston offense is the return of Nico Collins. He's officially back. He's activated. He's missed the last 5 games. So Houston definitely happy to have him back. Diggs obviously still out. I think Diggs might be out for the season, actually. Definitely still out for this game. That's all I care about at this moment. But Nico Collins is back. One thing I will say, let's not act like all of Houston's offensive problems are now solved because Nico Collins is back. I mean, this offense was having all kinds of problems before Nico Collins even got hurt. In the first 5 games of the season with Nico Collins, and by the way, with Diggs as well, just 20.4 points per game, 43% success rate. Look at their numbers without Nico Collins, 24.4 points per game. So they're actually averaging 4 more points per game without Nico Collins and a 42.8% success rate. I'm not saying the Texans offense is better without Nico Collins. Of course not. That's crazy. Of course, having Nico Collins on the field makes them a better team, makes them a more dangerous offense, without a doubt. I'm just saying, let's not act like all of their problems are solved now that Nico Collins is back. We can't forget that this offense looked pretty bad even before Nico Collins got hurt, and that was with Steph Diggs. Now they have no Diggs. So Nico Collins is back, definitely gives them a boost. But this is still not an offense I trust. And also, this game is on the road, and that is bad news for CJ Stroud. He's been much better at home, and that dates back last year. That's his whole career. This is from this season, 58.6% completions compared to 66% at home, 6.3 yards per attempt compared to 7.9. Passer ratings down on the road. Touchdown to interception ratio is actually the same this year on the road, but look at last year's numbers. Significantly better at home in Houston. This is when he was going off. This is his rookie year, the sensational rookie year. His numbers at home are elite. 8.9 yards per attempt, a 108.3 passer rating, 17 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Look at his numbers last year on the road. Yards per attempt drops to 7.3, passer rating drops to 91, just 6 touchdown passes. He threw 6 touchdown passes on the road all of last season. So the fact that this game's on the road, it's a little bit concerning. CJ Stroud is not nearly as productive on the road. Now, the good news for CJ Stroud is he's playing the Dallas Cowboy defense, and they can't seem to stop anybody through the air. In their last 4 games, they're allowing over 255 passing yards per game, 10.3 yards per attempt, 59.1% success rate per dropback, average opponent pass rating of 129.5. Those are terrible numbers against the pass in their last 4. That being said, look at the opponents. Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta in the Dome, and the Eagles. They played 4 dangerous offenses in a row. I'm not saying this Cowboys defense is good by any stretch. I'm just saying there's a lot of defenses that would have bad numbers against the pass over a 4-game stretch like that. And what's another thing that's true about these 4 teams? They all have great offensive lines. They all have great pass protections. Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta, Philadelphia, great offensive lines. So this Cowboys defensive front has gone 4 games in a row against great offensive lines. Now they get the Texans, who are definitely not a great offensive line. In fact, Houston's really struggled this season in that department. They're 30th in pressure rate allowed, 20th in pass blocking grade, 28th in adjusted sack rate. And by the way, the Cowboys pass rush might be all the way back now that Micah Parsons is back on the field. They're 3rd in pressure rate, 9th in pass rush grade, 15th in adjusted sack rate. And you might be looking at that saying, Kyle, how are the Cowboys 3rd in pressure rate? I was just looking at it last week and they were closer to 10th. Well, that's because last week, you may not have noticed it because the Cowboys got their asses beat in the game, but the Cowboys pass rush was going ballistic last week. Jalen Hurts was pressured on 64.3% of his dropbacks. That was the most in the NFL last week by far. The next closest was 52.3, I think. It was Bryce Young. That was the next closest. The Cowboys pass rush might be all the way back. Now, the good news for CJ Stroud is he's done an excellent job handling pressure so far this year. He's actually struggled from a clean pocket. When pressured, he's 12th in yards per attempt, 10th in pass rating, 6th in turnover-worthy play rate. So if this Cowboys pass rush is all the way back, those are definitely some numbers you want to see if you plan on betting Houston here or you're a Houston fan. That being said, look at the bottom left of this graphic. 22.4%. That's 29th in the NFL. That's pressure to sack rate. CJ Stroud holds onto the ball, takes a lot of sacks, and if this Cowboys pass rush is all the way back, I keep saying that because I believe it is, this could be a nightmare matchup for CJ Stroud on the road. Now, some bad news for the Dallas defense is it's looking like Deron Bland will not be back for this game. Last week, it was looking like he was going to return for this one. He's been ruled out. So Bland is still out, and also Jordan Lewis is out for this game as well. He's not pictured on this graphic. He's their 3rd or 4th corner. Him and Carson are CB3 and CB4. Jordan Lewis is out as well. So the Cowboys are definitely really thin at corner for this one. That being said, they've kind of played this entire season thin at corner. I don't know how much of a change that is. They've been thin at corner this whole year. And when it comes to the Cowboys coverage, I guess they're running a ton of man now, like last year under Dan Quinn. Through 4 weeks, they were actually 3rd in zone coverage frequency. They're running a lot of cover 3. But since week 5, they're 2nd in man coverage frequency. So it looks like Zimmer, after 4 weeks, decided to just completely change the defense. Not really sure. If you're a Cowboys fan, you have some more information on that. I really don't know. All I know is since week 5, they are 2nd in man coverage frequency. How has CJ Stroud performed against man coverage this year? Pretty middle of the pack, 14th in completion percentage, 15th in yards per attempt, 17th in passer rating. Nothing really to take away there. Also, Cowboys run a lot of single high safety looks, 6th most in the NFL. CJ Stroud against single high safeties, 21st in completion percentage, 18th in yards per attempt, 23rd in passer rating, maybe slightly below average there. Nothing really jumps out in terms of the coverages. But like I said, I do not trust CJ Stroud on the road. I certainly don't trust the Texans offensive line. I do not trust that pass protection. And the Cowboys pass rush looks live. So I do not like this matchup for CJ Stroud at all. I think he's going to have a bad game here on the road at Dallas. Now, you might be thinking, well, Kyle, who cares? They're just going to hand the ball off to Mixon. It's the Cowboys. They can't stop the run. Fair point. The Cowboys have been pretty awful against the run so far this year. They've been getting blown off the line of scrimmage. 30th in adjusted line yards, 31st in run defense grade, 28th in yards before contact. But again, the Texans' offensive line has really struggled. They're really struggling to generate push. 23rd in adjusted line yards, 23rd in run blocking grade, 27th in yards before contact. So does this Houston run game really scare me? Not really, if I'm being honest. And the Cowboys' run defense numbers, look, they're bad against the run. A little bit skewed. They got run all over in the first few games of the season. Through 3 games, they were allowing over 187 rushing yards per game, 5.73 yards per carry. In the 6 games since then, it's still a bad run defense. 4.55 yards per carry, 138 rushing yards per game. So it hasn't been nearly as bad. Also, 41.4% success rate per rush is actually kind of good. Look, by no means am I trying to tell you this Cowboys run defense can be trusted. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's not nearly as bad as you think. Those first few games were terrible, and first impressions are huge, especially in the NFL. You see the first few games, and everyone's like, Cowboys run defense worse than the NFL, and it doesn't matter if they've been slightly below average since then. First impressions are huge. That's in their head. Cowboys have a terrible run defense. It hasn't been practical joke bad. The Cowboys are perceived as a bottom 5 run defense, and they're more slightly below average. And it doesn't matter because Houston's not running the ball. In their last 3 games, 113.3 rushing yards per game, 3.7 yards per carry, a 32% success rate per rush. We thought this Texans run game was going to take off with Joe Mixon coming back from injury. It just hasn't. And it's not like they've been up against vicious run defense. The Colts, the Jets can't stop the run. Detroit, okay. The Lions are good against the run, but this Texans run game is not a unit I believe in. So I don't like the matchup for CJ Stroud, and I don't think he's going to have run support. So you might be thinking, well, shit, Kyle, we don't like the matchup for the Texans offense. How are we going to lay 7 on the road? Let's go take Dallas right now. Well, hold on. Because now we have to look at the other side of the ball. And this is where things get I'll say tragic for Dallas. That offensive performance I saw last week against Philadelphia, this is coming from somebody that bet Dallas plus 7.5 in the game. I bet the Cowboys in the game. I watched every snap. And the offensive performance I saw from the Cowboys against the Eagles in that game with Cooper Rush at quarterback, it looked like the Purdue-Ohio State game from a few weeks back. It looked like they didn't belong playing at the same level of football. That was terribly phrased. But truly, it was one of the worst offensive performance. It was probably the worst offensive performance we've seen from an NFL team this entire year. How can we have any faith at all in this Cowboys defense right now with Cooper Rush at quarterback? I mean, they weren't even playing well before Dak Prescott went down. On the season, they're 25th in yards per play, 24th in success rate. Couldn't throw the ball, can't throw the ball now, can barely run it. Although the Cowboys might have a bit of a run game brewing. That's something you could say. But on the season, they're 29th in yards per carry, 17th in success rate per rush. Matched up against the Texans defense. Nobody's talking about it, but this is the strength of the team. It's not C.J. Stroud. It's not Nico Collins. It's not Joe Mixon. It's the defense. This is one of the best defenses in the NFL. They're 4th in yards per play, 1st in overall defensive success rate, elite against the pass, pretty damn elite against the run as well. Last week against the Eagles, the Cowboys were held to 6 points, but check this out. 3.1 yards per play is truly next level abysmal. Cooper Rush in the game. Hold on, I have Cooper Rush's numbers right here. Why aren't they loading up? Here it is. 13 of 23, 45 yards. He dropped back to pass 23 times and accumulated 45 passing yards in the game. That's less than 2 yards per pass attempt. I've never even heard of anything that bad. A 61.7 passer rating in the game. Now you might be thinking, but Kyle, we know the Cowboys can win with Cooper Rush at quarterback. We saw it a couple years ago in 2022. The Cowboys went 4-1 in a 5-game stretch where Cooper Rush was playing quarterback. So we know this team can win with Cooper Rush. But here's the thing. It wasn't the offense that was winning those games. In those 5 games, yeah, they went 4-1. They averaged 21.4 points per game. Look at the defense, holding opponents to 15.8 points per game. It wasn't the offense winning those games when Cooper Rush was playing quarterback. That pass rush was nuts that year, especially in that stretch. They were on a heater. It wasn't Cooper Rush winning those games. It was the Cowboys defense. I think Cooper Rush really might be that bad. Maybe not quite as bad as we saw last week, because that was a practical joke. But he may not be very good. And the Cowboys offense wasn't even playing well before he took over the starting job. And oh yeah, he's going to be trying to throw the ball in Houston's defense that's allowing less than 196 passing yards per game on the season, 6.4 yards per attempt. I'm not seeing it. I don't know how Cooper Rush is going to be able to throw the ball in this game. Again, maybe not quite as bad as last week, but it should be pretty ugly here. Now, you can point at the fact that the Houston defense is still banged up. There's still no Will Anderson, which is huge. They're also missing that D tackle. He's out. They're getting Mario Edwards Jr. back, though, from a 4-game suspension. He's back. I don't even remember what he got suspended for, to be honest, but he's back. So they get a piece back, but they're still banged up. Christian Harris hasn't played all year. Lassiter may not play. He's listed as questionable. So the Texans defense is banged up. There's something, if you like Dallas. But the thing is, the Cowboys offense isn't necessarily healthy either. Obviously, we know there's no Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb's listed as questionable. Zach Martin is listed as questionable. Are those not the 3 most important pieces to the Cowboys offense? Dak Prescott, Zach Martin, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, to be fair, I think CeeDee Lamb and Zach Martin are both going to play. Both participated in practice, so I think we're good to go here. It's just Dak, obviously, that's going to be out. But still, even with the injuries to the Texans defense, I mean, an 80% Texans defense can shut Cooper Rush down. So, I mean, I don't have any faith in Cooper Rush or any sort of passing attack here from Dallas. If you are betting the Cowboys, you're looking at this, in my opinion. In the last 2 games, they have been running the ball. Against Atlanta and Philly, 117 rushing yards per game, 5.2 yards per carry. 53.3% success rate per rush is actually very good. So the Cowboys have been running the ball a bit. There's something if you're trying to take the points with Dallas. They've been running the ball, and we just said Houston's missing Will Anderson. They're missing a D tackle. They're still not healthy at linebacker. Not to mention, we have seen Houston get run on a couple times. It's looking like defending the pass is the strength of this defense, which wasn't what we expected coming into the year. But we have seen Houston get run on a little bit here and there. The Colts were able to run on them, so maybe the Cowboys can run the ball on Houston a little bit. I mean, it's thin. I personally don't think you can count on that happening, but there is a slight path to it. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys are able to run the ball a little bit in this game. So where does that leave me in terms of placing a bet? Well, I don't have it in me to go back to Dallas. Like I said, I took them against the Eagles plus 7.5. It was actually my number 2, I think my number 2 or 3 top bet of the week too. So it wasn't just like, oh, I was slightly leaning towards the Cowboys, I'll put a few dollars on it. It wasn't like that. I liked the Cowboys at plus 7.5. It was a terrible bet. I don't have it in me to go back to that. The bet I placed for this game is the under. I got it super early in the week. I'm holding an under 42.5 ticket. I think it's pretty much 41 across the board now. I still like it at that number. I still think it stays under 41. So my pick for this game is the under. I also think Rico Dowdle could score a touchdown. So Rico Dowdle touchdown scorer. I didn't personally bet that, just throwing something out there. My bet in this game is in the bet I personally placed is under 42.5. That's what I got. I think the Cowboys defense are going to surprise some people and really give Stroud some problems. I think Houston's going to struggle to move the ball in this game. I also lean towards the Cowboys, but under. Live show, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll go through this game. We'll go through the NBA games. We got some college basketball. If you're able to make it, would love to see in the comments. If you want to go see all the bets I personally have open, head over to KyleKirms.com and click on open bets. You'll see all mine as well as everyone on the staff here. Let's finish out this excellent week strong. It was a great weekend. Let's keep that rolling. Please remember to bet responsibly. Talk to you in the Discord.